welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. I'm your host, Josie Way, and co-hosting with me is Ken Demers. Tonight we have the wonderful experience of having our good friend and spiritual guru, Roland Comtois. My tongue's tied. When I asked him what he did, he said, oh, medium, reader, and medium, author, and speaker.
Yes.
That sums it up in just 3 words.
Yes.
But what you do is such a great big spiritual package. We thought we would like to talk about spirituality today.
I think that's a great topic.
And how you got started and all of the, just from helping someone grieving to all the spiritual steps you've advanced and taken.
Well, for me, it's been a lifetime of spiritual exploration, from singing at St. Charles Church in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, to going on a journey of having this kind of deep, profound inner experience about who I am and what I am in this world, right? And we all have a contribution, and we all are part of something bigger. And when we're on our spiritual path, we begin to understand what that is. And so for me, spirituality is the foundation of the inner experience, the soul experience, this something that lives deep within us, right? And that's what, to me, spirituality is. It's this exploration to that place, that inner place inside. And so for me, when I was 10 years old, I began the quest to discover what that was and what that meant. And when I heard voices and felt energy around me, and saw my grandmother after she passed away, I had lots of questions of what it all meant. And how is it that we can have these communications and connections? And we can because there's something within us that allows us to make that connection.
When you were very young, there weren't that many people that could help explain this to you.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
So your search was doubly hard.
The interesting thing, the search wasn't looking for something on the outside. I was looking for that something within myself, even as a young kid. When I had those feelings and I saw those images and I felt that energy, it wasn't that I was looking outside for the answer, but I came within myself to discover what that was. And each time I went there, I came to the realization that I am a thread in this bigger tapestry, that I am part of something. And so there wasn't anyone telling me you should do it this way or that way. I just went with it. I just followed that kind of spiritual connection and moved along with it.
So you heard a loving, guiding thought.
Yes.
That kept you going.
Yeah. It would be that voice inside, or that energy that you felt as if it was surrounding you, and you just listened to it and you felt it, and you became part of that energy, or I certainly became part of that energy, and it became the guiding mantra that moved me forward. And I think that's what spirituality is about. It's about building the inner house, and we do that through faith, we do it through religion, we do it through love, we do it through compassion, we do it through community service, we do it through understanding who we are. There's a lot of things that we can do to build that inner vibration, that inner aspect of who we are.
I call it interior decorating.
It's a beautiful way to say it. It is interior decorating. And, you bring up a good point, because every so often you have to go back and reevaluate where you are, who you are, why you are. Often I tell people to take a little bit of an inventory of their emotions, of their experiences, of their connections, and see where those things lead.
What brought you to bring it out to the public?
As simple as a voice in my head that said, you have to tell the story. It wasn't any more dramatic than that. There was a clear feeling inside of me that said you have to move forward with it. It's not any different than when I was home as a 23-year-old, And that voice in me said, go to nursing school. I went to nursing school. That voice in me said later on, go out and tell the people that love is everlasting. That voice I listened to. We all have that voice. We all have those moments where that connection is so alive that if you followed it, it would lead you on a mission. I'll never forget this moment of sitting in my office as a legislative outreach coordinator nurse. Wasn't my favorite job, I should tell you, but I did it. I did it because I needed to earn money to take care of my child. And I was sitting at my desk and some voice said to me, quit your job. And I said, no, I can't. And I had an argument with the voice, right? And at one point I said, I've got to listen to that voice. And it said, quit your job. So I got up from my desk, I went to my boss and I said, I'm giving you my 2-week notice. She said, well, where are you going? I said, I don't know, but some voice is leading me. Something is guiding me. And then I walked out the building and I never returned. And 25 years later, I'm still on the same path, telling the same story. Because that voice inside of me did something.
In that 2-week period, how did you get on this path, though?
That's a good question. You know, it's like a road map. It's following the map to a destination. It leads you, it guides you, it tells you, it informs you. It's very similar to the book The Alchemist, when the young guy is trying to find his destiny, and every so often in his path, there is a totem, a something that says you're in the right place at the right time. So during that 2-week period, there was a moment that those tokens, those totems, those somethings were available to me, reminding me that what I heard 2 weeks prior was perfect, because I was in the right place at the right moment at the right time.
Had you been involved in paranormal stuff previous to that? Or?
Sure, I took people to graveyards. We went searching through all kinds of things.
So you kind of knew what you were going to do.
I did know what I was going to do, but still that voice was guiding me, confirming. That energy was guiding me, confirming.
Yeah. No, it's still a big jump.
Yeah, that this is where you have to go. We have all had that moment. That moment when everything stands completely still. And God, spirit, energy, universe, angel, whatever you want to call it, or self, whatever you want to call it, sends a message directly to your inner self and says, this is where you belong. And it's that moment when you listen to that voice, your spirituality, your energy grows. It gets bigger, it gets stronger. At some point you feel more connected to the universe as a result of listening to that voice, to that energy that's within.
Yeah. What seems to happen is spirituality is not just going in, it's also recognizing that as you are a divine being, so are all your brothers and sisters in the world.
Yeah.
And it's also realizing that you're not alone, and life does continue, but of those, that there are many on the spirit side of life that are here to help us and guide us.
Yeah, you know, I think something happens when you recognize that there is a spark of divinity within yourself. You're then able to see that energy, a reflection of that energy in other people, in other circumstances, in other situations, that you get to see it differently than you did before you had that experience.
Yeah.
So I agree with you totally.
Yeah, and you see it no matter what the race, the religion, anything. No matter what the differences are.
There's no.
You see it in animals.
You see it. You see it.
That spirit is there.
It exists because we are a part of the universal energy. You know, often people think that we're separate from it, that it's far beyond our grasp. And when you have that understanding, then you've created limitations and boundaries. It's when you come to realize that the universe is in me, it's in you, it's in anybody who's watching or experiencing this, that we're part of it, that we're not separate from the experience.
This one comes directly back to you.
Yes.
Do you know the term Transfiguration Mediumship?
Yes.
I work at a bookstore, Northern Lights in Portsmouth, Rhode Island.
Okay.
And I was there yesterday, and I got talking to this lady, and she brought up your name.
Okay.
I said, oh, I know Roland. She says, yeah. She says, I was watching him one day, and he was giving a reading to a friend of mine, and his face changed to that person. So I throw out to you, do you see transfiguration mediumship in your future?
So let me
You
say,
seem to be doing it.
let me say to you that I don't go out and put on my business card, I'm that kind of a medium. I just do my thing. And if at the end, someone says, you know, you look like my cousin's uncle, or you sounded like someone, or there was that kind of an experience.
So you've heard this before?
I have heard it before, but I don't search for it, you know.
Yeah.
However, it's going to show itself as long as, and look, I got to tell you, I'm about to tell you a secret.
We'll keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, just to ourselves. I had a conversation with the spirit world a long time ago. I was a young kid, and I said, if this is the mission I'm supposed to do, if this is what I am supposed to do, my prayer is that the end result of whatever it is that I'm supposed to do brings love, compassion. That's it. So if by chance this is the way I got to get to that space,
It helps that person have compassion.
That's it. That's all.
It's a reflection of a very close connection, though.
It is.
With the spirit.
It is a very close connection. Again, back to the concept that we're not separate. So in fact, could the entire universe be right here at this moment? Could the breath of spirit just be beyond my breath? And when I'm here, could it all just be here? Could your people be here? Could the angels be here? Could God be here? Could all of it be here, right? And I think when we come to understand that we're not separate from the entire thing, we release the limitation, we release the boundaries, we release fear, and we step totally and truly into who we are.
I agree.
The heart of God.
That's exactly it, Ken. That's exactly it.
God in action.
Exactly it.
I believe when I look at myself, I think of myself as whole universe.
Yes.
And every cell in my body
Yeah.
being another little spiritual being. And so you can find spirituality physically.
Yeah.
That I'm in charge of all of this and I have to take good care of all of this.
Yes, that's true. You can find it out in nature. You go out and sit by a stream, and all of a sudden you feel like you're part of the stream, right? You go, when I'm in my yard and I'm walking around the yard, I feel like I'm part of the ground. I'm part of the experience. So, you can find the spirituality in many places. You can find it in friendships. You can find it within. You can find it sitting in nature, being under the stars. I mean, there's a lot of places where you can find that. But I preface it by saying you have to see it within yourself before you can see it in the global picture.
Out of curiosity, I'm thinking about you out in your yard, and you're out in the country.
Yeah.
Ever have encounters with fairies and elves and stuff?
Well, my yard is full of everything. Everything that is beautiful.
Gnomes and all.
Look, I have a 26-year-old daughter. We lived in that house when she was 10 to maybe 12 or 13. We put out cupcakes for fairies, I should tell you. I have a little girl. She was into that experience. I was into understanding
I remember when you bought the house.
Yeah, that everything is part of the universe as long as it resonates with the essence and the energy of love that is unconditional. So I'm totally aware of that. I'll never forget my first trip to Ireland, my first international trip, and they stopped the bus. There were, I don't know how many people on the bus, and they said, Roland, look to the left. There's a fairy bush or tree or something. And we all got out of the bus, and we went to look at this beautiful tree that they said was where fairies and all these things visited. So they were totally into that experience.
And did you see anything?
You know what?
Or communicate anything?
I felt something,
Okay.
And I accept the feeling.
But you weren't in your space, so...
Yeah, but this is another thing we should talk about, because people say to me, gee, I only can feel my mother. Well, that matters. Some people say to me, I can only see her, but I can't hear her. I think we should be grateful for what we can do, not what we cannot do. If all you have is the feeling qualifies. If all you have is knowing, Knowing qualifies. So when I walked off the bus, down the pathway to this tiny little tree, I had a feeling. I wasn't going to judge the feeling. I was going to experience it for what it was in that moment.
That's more important.
Yeah, it really is more important. Again, though, there are people who say, I can't see my mother. I only know that she's there. Well, the knowing is as important as the feeling. There's not one that's better than the other, you know? And not everybody sees, feels, hears, knows, and whatever.
That's kind of special, actually. There's
think
very
it
few
is.
people that
It's
do it
rare
all.
for someone to have it all.
It's quite rare. But we shouldn't put aside the fact that we can feel, see, hear, know, or one or two or three of those things, because it's important. And I'll say it again, that I think every time we recognize that moment, it stretches our boundaries a little bit more. We become stronger in some way within ourselves. Again, because I believe that spirituality is about the building the foundation of our inner place, our inner house, our inner experience.
Well, basically, it's a vibration in some kind of an electromagnetic field.
Yes.
And what I find it very interesting, that the digital cameras nowadays, they're showing up more and more pictures of spirit, of elves. You go to a psychic fair and somebody's taking aura photographs.
Yes.
And you take a picture of that auric photograph, and the intensity that's coming out of the heart of those people in that digital camera of the aura is amazing.
It is amazing.
The digital can see what we can't in that photograph.
So. It's exactly true. I mean, in this space, you know, I'm looking at you, I'm seeing your aura. It's instantaneously, it's a visual experience for me. Attached to that is a feeling. Attached to that is a vibration. So, you know, it's almost an instantaneous. So when I'm walking through a room or at an event and I have hundreds of people there, I'm seeing their energy somehow.
Kind of merging together.
Yes, it's quite a spectacular thing. Now, I know, you know, maybe you think I should take a psychotropic drug or something. I took them already. No, I didn't take them.
I know what you mean.
When I was 18 years old, I was on the psychotropic drugs. The most amazing thing is that it didn't stop.
No, it
This
doesn't.
vibration, this feeling, this something that happens inside.
It doesn't stop them. But if you're having too many of them, like you're picking up on everyone in the crowd, that's overwhelming.
It could be.
It tones it down.
Well, I
could
think
be.
part of it is you have to understand what you're seeing.
And you have to understand what you're doing. I mean, if I'm standing in front of an audience, at this point, I figured out how to negotiate that energy, how to deal with all those things that are coming at me. So I'm seeing their auras, I'm feeling energy from them, I'm seeing their loved ones, I'm feeling their grief, I'm seeing their grief in their faces, I'm seeing their desperation for peace. You know, all these things are happening, whether there's one person in the room or 800 people in the room.
Yeah.
I think you just gave us a really good explanation of why the average person doesn't.
You're right. Yeah, good point. Good point.
You also work with those who are dying.
Yes.
And you counsel them. And you may not have a whole room full, but you're working with someone who's going through a very strong experience, depending upon what their faiths or beliefs are.
Yeah.
And you can work with anyone of any faith.
Yes, that's true. I'll never, ever forget this woman who called me, and she had terminal cancer. And she says, I only have 3 weeks to live. That's what the doctors told her. And she said to me, how am I going to leave my kids? And, you know, we had this long discussion about staying and leaving and life after here and the afterlife. And I said, did you love your kids? And she said, yes, with all my heart and soul. I said, did you give your kids everything you possibly could have ever given them? Yes. I said, did you give your kids the best of who you are? She said, yes. I said, did you love them unconditionally? She said, yes. And then she stopped, and she took a deep, deep breath and said, I got it. I've given them everything I can. That's making me emotional telling you the story. I mean, she's on the phone with me. I
beautiful.
couldn't be with her by her side. So I'm talking to her on the phone, and she says, I get it. I've given them everything. And then she said, do you mind speaking at my funeral, at my service, so that, so that you can tell my kids something? And I said, of course I would. And so, yes, I talk to people that are dying and hopefully giving them a moment of ease about what the next step is. I mean, I've had a near-death experience. I know that next step, but we all experience the next step differently, no matter how you look at it. It's not a cookie-cutter experience. We don't just all do it the same way. We don't live the same way, so we're not going to die the same way.
It depends on somebody's personal beliefs.
Sure, exactly so. It depends on what you believe, or what your faith tells you to do, or what. So you're right about that.
Yeah. There are people, though, who, I can't remember her name, but there's a Buddhist practitioner, and she was born Jewish, and she said, why am I seeing all these gods and goddesses? And she was, and someone else who was born also Jewish and kept seeing Christ.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
No, Christ was Jewish.
Yes, well, I have said that to some people were asking me about, Mother Mary. I said, well, she was just a nice Jewish girl.
That's true.
A lady said to me once, why am I seeing the Catholic Jesus? I'm Jewish. I said, what you're seeing is love. That is unconditional. That's what you're seeing.
Yeah. You're seeing Christ consciousness.
Yes, a consciousness of that, yes.
As Jesus displayed it.
That's funny.
Say that again.
Christ consciousness is a thing that is our higher self chooses to ascend and become part of us, and our higher self has Christ consciousness.
I think
But he also
perfected-
steps in. I've had him come in many times.
Yeah.
Yes, they can. But you could say it's the perfected consciousness that our higher self displays.
That's pretty good. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. And I think that if you take out the word Christ, the consciousness of that energy exists anyways.
A higher
Well,
level.
It's a higher level of energy. Buddha is a higher level of energy. Kuan Yin is a higher level of energy. Ganesh is a higher level of energy.
Who's Ganesh?
She is a Hindu goddess. And so all these energies, they're just energy, which hold some very divine inspiration for us.
But they're also part of each one of those individuals.
Yes.
Has its own soul, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, Christ is a fingertip of his soul.
Yes.
So that each one is a separate personality that's going to express itself as it comes into different lifetimes.
Yes, that's very true. It's
So,
true.
but they're individuals. They're people. They're, we may not think of them as people, but they are.
They are people.
Well, they're vibrating at such a high intensity that, they're always in the elevated consciousness.
Not always. I was with Christ a couple of lifetimes, and the one before he was the Christ.
Well, that was before.
The one before he came into this world as the Christ, he was learning how to control the energies within the body. Right? And then he
So are
spent
we
30
all
years
now.
in a monastery to really fine-tune it in the Christ lifetime.
We all will be walking that path at some point.
I'm in
Because
the-
all God's children eventually
I'm in
get
the
back to
midst
him.
of co-authoring a book about the past lives of Christ. And it will be an interesting read, I'm sure. And there are multiple, not a lot, maybe 10 authors in the book who are sharing their perspective about what you're talking about. So it's going to be an interesting
Good,
story
because I was
tell
going to
at
ask
some
you
point.
about that.
Yeah.
It's an
And he
interesting
knew-
story. I mean, he lived, he ascended, you're living, you'll ascend. And the more that we live in that place of unconditional love, the more that we will ascend and reach our own level and our own state of evolution. And I think that's what happens. As we live, we learn, we grow. We live, we learn, we grow into our true selves. And I think that's how it works.
And it's amazing to think that at some point we will all be ascended masters, guiding others.
Yeah. I've said this often on the show probably, that I don't think we just pop up and become one. We have to evolve into
Oh yeah, for sure.
that experience. Some people believe that you leave here and that's it. You're it. You're on the next level. But
Just carrying the energy it can take several lifetimes of learning.
It takes a lot.
But we're talking more than several lifetimes. We're talking hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years.
Maybe so.
To
Some of
evolve
us
that.
are just slow learners.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm only kidding.
I mean, as far as I can figure out, I'm going from lifetime to lifetime virtually instantaneously, or very, very quick order thereafter. There's not like 1,000 years between them. It's like, well, that one's
Seconds?
done. Let's go on to the next one. We'll pick out the next one.
Yeah.
Might take a little while to pick out the vibration and the life experience that we want to have, but it's not long periods of time.
That would be a very interesting conversation to have, for sure, about that process, about the evolution of the soul. And, do we reincarnate instantly? Do we go through a
Sometimes.
process? Or do we stay in that field of light longer to be, the ascended being? Or do we come back here and become the ascended? That's a very interesting conversation that could be had about that topic in itself.
If you're talking about individuals that are on ascended levels, they've been doing it for very long periods of time.
It's very hard to do in a physical body
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of all of the wants and needs and necessities.
Yeah, I mean,
Of-
you
of
got the
physical
Dalai
life.
Lama and maybe a few other
Yeah.
monks and whoever knows what that we don't know about in India that are on a different
In a
level.
level.
I know a lady, she lives out in Montana. I can't remember her name, it went blank. When she can see auras on a completely different level than us, the best in the world. They took her to Spain to study her. They're driving down the highway, a couple of guys in the front who can't speak English, and she's a 15-year-old girl in the back seat, and she screams. The guys jam on the car, she jumps out of the car and runs across the plains up over a mountaintop. And she gets to the top of the mountain, and here's this aura that she can see that's 3 miles wide.
Wow.
An average person's aura is 800 feet.
Wow, that's
So she runs down and hugs them, and about then, the Spanish guys come and grab her and take her back to the car. So she never finds out who this guy is.
Astounding.
But his aura was 3 miles. She thought it was God.
Wow, that's amazing.
3 mile aura. So who is an individual like that? Think about it. And just about 2-3 months ago, I was in a reading, and I asked that question about that individual, and he knew she was coming, so he waited for her to come. Think about the interconnectedness of everything for somebody to be able to do that.
Spirit loves
It's
weaving
interesting.
Our connections.
Yeah.
Loves that. They're master weavers. I want to thank you because we're just about done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us.
I appreciate it.
Please tune in. We will have more of Roland. Thank you, Ken. And we have him for 3 shows, so don't miss them. We'll be talking about
Are you going to be
grieving.
around here locally?
Yes. I'm
Oh, if you want to reach Roland, how can you reach Roland?
RolandComtois.net
Okay.
or Facebook, Blessings by Roland. Type in my name, you'll find me, I'm sure.
Yes,
Yeah, that'd be
yes.
great.
Spell your last name.
Comtois. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate being here with you guys.
It's always a pleasure.
It's always interesting, different. That's what we want. Try to educate people.
I love that idea.
They may not believe us, but we'll give them a different viewpoint.